Coming up today on the Locked On Hornets podcast, Summer League is over with. What a delightful Summer League it was. I'll talk about the Hornets record at 7-1. Tidjane Salaun, if Summer League is for feelings, how are we feeling about the first round pick? Really, everybody balled out at certain times in the California Classic and out in Vegas. I'll break it all down today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's the Locked On Hornets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast, and that does include YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, they're over with in the NBA. We know this. The sports, they stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. If you'll remember last week, Doug is out on vacation for the entire week, so I'm going to be going solo quite a bit. I think David Walker will be helping me out Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Might have some help from some friends out there, but mostly it's just going to be me, and that's why you're getting an episode late on Monday, but we should be back on track for the rest of the week. Appreciate you joining us. Remember to subscribe and all that stuff here on YouTube. Also, listen to me, Walker Mehl, WFNZ every weekday on Wes and Walker, Sports Radio, 92.7 WFNZ. Man, Summer League, what a different go of it this time compared to years past, where it wasn't very exciting to talk about Summer League. We'd always have the hope. We'd always have those feelings that Doug mentions, yet they would turn into bad feelings. Maybe not around Brandon Miller last year because we ended on a high note with him, but the record was never great. The roster construction was never good. We never had a point guard. Felt like the Hornets answered all of those questions this year with Jeff Peterson, Gabe Plotkin, Rick Schnall, Schlotkin. They were all able to answer the questions that we've had. How are you going to fix blank? And we finally had a good Summer League session. The Hornets finished Summer League 7-1, split between the California Classic, where they went 3-0. We won a de facto title. You can't tell me otherwise. And then out in Vegas, they only lost one game. They were 4-1 in Vegas, 7-1 total, and they beat the Trailblazers and the Brooklyn Nets over the weekend. They beat the Trailblazers 84-68 on Friday, and just yesterday, they beat the Brooklyn Nets 97-90. So main takeaways, if we just want to take the macro view real quickly, everybody had a game or an opportunity where they just balled out. I mean, think about each of the box scores that you might look at. Think about the stats. You can go down the list and you can point to not even just good moments, not even just good plays, but you can point to little stretches for those that have been a part of the podcast for a while now. You can point to little stretches of performances from all of these players. We can go back to, let's just start recently. Yesterday against the Nets, how about Brandon Slater going for 30 points? He goes 10 of 16 from the field. He goes 6 of 9 from three-point range. He had a few steals to boot in a win against the Nets. Again, 97-90. Brandon Slater went for 30. You go back to the real storyline on Friday where Matt Morgan in 23 minutes, which is, I think, the understated part of his box score, Matt Morgan scored 36 points. He did so on 11 of 11 shooting and also going 7 of 7 from the three-point line. Went 7 of 9 from the free throw line. Went 7 of 7 from the three-point line. It actually landed him a job overseas immediately. We did not get to see Matt Morgan suit up for the Hornets in this last Summer League game, but good for him. Like, I'm hoping that got him a little bit more money than he had been making. Matt Morgan giving a huge shout out to all the Hornets fans and the Hornets organization out there after signing with, I believe, Virtus Bologna, if I'm not mistaken. If I butchered that, please forgive me. But at least it got him a job, and he was already going to play overseas anyway. I was hoping that he might realize his dream playing a little bit longer in the NBA, but just a huge salute. I've talked about Matt Morgan even before the Trailblazers contest where he didn't perform anything like that, but he was a smart player, fairly easy to see that he was a high IQ guy and could shoot. And we know about his history in Cornell being the all-time scoring leader for Cornell. You look at his summer league stats in Vegas, at least, and they end with him shooting 56% from three after going 7 of 7 in that last game. And he also averaged 14.3 points, or excuse me, he averaged 17.8 points per game. And that was the most points per game for anybody that played over one contest. Brandon Miller had the 23-point outing in the lone game that he played. But Matt Morgan was the leading scorer for this squad, PPG-wise, if you're just taking anything more than a one-game sample. So this is what excites me, right? If Jeff Peterson and the Hornets brass, the new regime, are now in charge of constructing a roster, look, it's a nice start when you only lose one game in Summer League and you barely even lost to the Boston Celtics. So I actually take that to mean something. If you go to every single one of these players and then point to a little stretch, Matt Morgan, little stretch, bomb game. Same thing with Brandon Slater this last time out. But we can even go to the shifting of the guys we think should get the two-way. We really got off to a nice start with Mo Gee, who stole the show. Thus, the guys for Gee and gals for Gee movement. Again, shout out to Rachel. I love it. It was because Gee performed really well in that first game and then was out with an ankle injury after suffering it the second game of the Classic. But even still, he still is probably my favorite to get to the two-way contract, the last two-way. More on that a little bit later, but Mo Gee really got this thing started off right. You go to Nick Smith Jr. We wanted to see a lot of improvement from him. And he didn't shoot the ball really well. Like, that's something that needs to fix itself for sure. But if we wanted to see him improve on ball and even defensively, we remember Josh Longstaff telling us on Wes and Walker that they've given Nick Smith Jr. the hardest defensive responsibility out there. The defensive assignment that he drew every single night was the hardest one. Like, I'll take that. Just throw him into the fire even more so. And you could see the constant improvement of him trying to learn how to be a facilitator of the offense and just a decision maker within the offense. If you're that small, you can't just be a combo guard unless you're hitting shots crazy. And he wasn't really hitting shots, but even still, I leave comfortable with the improvement that Nick Smith Jr. made in this summer league session. So you go to Nick Smith Jr., you go to Slater, who has his moment, Matt Morgan, who has his moment, Jake Stevens. You know, Doug Branson did have a little bit of a market cornered on Jake Stevens Island. I wonder if he's back after Stevens against the Nets goes for 16 points, 6 of 9 from the field, and hit a couple three-pointers. We know that the Hornets value shooting big men. Really, it's only James Banks, who isn't the shooter out of all the other big guys that they've tried out. But I even think Banks was pretty damn good this summer league session, and he finished his 3 of 5 from the field against Brooklyn. If you go down the list and see everybody that got real minutes in this summer league session, then you can point to something positive that they did. So the guys making the roster, they finally get a point guard with Xavier Simpson, who might have mattered more than any other player in this entire shindig. I mean, he's the guy that's organizing everything. So Xavier Simpson matters a ton. And then you go to the big guys, Gee, Stevens, Banks, all different and all produced at different levels. And then you just go to the flat out shooters / scorers, where Morgan and Slater each have their turn going for 30. Even Leaky Black had a nice defensive game. I think this was during the week last week. It was before Portland, before Brooklyn. Everybody had their moment in the sun. And if you can just go down the list and get talented player after talented player, even if they don't have a future with this team. Matt Morgan, it was pretty clear that he wasn't going to have a future with this squad, despite going perfect from the field, but it got him a contract elsewhere. And what did Morgan say after he left? Said, thank you very much for the opportunity that I was given. And he gives the Hornets org a tip of the cap. Looks like the coaching staff is respected. It seems like the franchise is respected. And if you think that maybe just these guys out of left field that are looking for another opportunity, if they see the Hornets, then they're going to want to play for that team if they're continuously winning in Summer League. If everybody has a chance to go off, and then let's say the Hornets hit on one of these guys They do the Miami Heat thing where they find a diamond in the rough. I like all the diamonds wanting to be in our rough. That doesn't sound very right, but you get the idea. I want the diamonds. And perhaps one starts to shine a little brighter when you have more opportunities like that, if the players also value what the Hornets are doing in Summer League. And so it was such a different culture, such a different feeling that we got this go around compared to years past. Let's continue to talk about Summer League. And also, we got to discuss what everybody really wants to know about as far as who is going to be a part of the future. And even in 2024, Tidjane Salaun, if Summer League is for feelings, what were your feelings about the first round pick? We'll get to the Tidjane Salaun analysis in just a moment here on Locked On Hornets. Before we get to some more Salaun analysis, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never really want them to stop. But as the playoffs are over in the NBA, we have a break in the WNBA. The playoffs winding down elsewhere, not even existing elsewhere. We get fewer games in the sports. Well, they're just not sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. And all I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. More Locked On Hornets ahead. So we talked about everybody having their moment. I think Tidjane Salaun, that's true for him as well. He finishes having only played in Vegas, made his debut at the very beginning of that session, and appears in just 3 games. We did get to see him suit up against Portland. In that win against the Trailblazers, Salaun went 4 of 11. He missed all 3 of his three-point attempts. He missed 1 of his 2 free throw attempts. He grabbed 4 rebounds. He had 1 turnover. He fouled 3 times. He ended up with 9 points. If you look at the Summer League, the Vegas stats overall, Tidjane ends up as the 6th leading scorer, 5 if you're just making it more than a single contest sample. He shot just a little above 42% from the field. He shot 10% from 3. Not great, lower volume, but still 3 attempts per game. Basically, I think that means he only hit 1 3-pointer, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't even shoot all that well from the free throw line. Did grab 7 rebounds per game. And ended up, again, scoring 9 points per contest and just a little under 20 minutes of run every single time the Hornets took the court. So how do we feel about Salaun? I think the disaster potential was really high for the youngest player in the draft that was considered this really raw prospect that was taken a lot higher than most people thought. Even if you thought the Spurs might select him at 8, still just even a little bit higher than what most people thought. We did not know that the Hornets were really all that interested publicly in Tidjane Salaun until Kristen Peak of Yahoo Sports had it like 3-4 hours before the draft. It was like 4 p.m. on that day of the draft. So disaster potential was kind of high. I was a little scared. Because if he goes out there and he shoots absolutely terribly from the field, and then you just don't see a lot of flashes, and there's some over games, which Alex Sarr gave the Wizards, but we did not have that from Salaun, which is great. Yeah, I was a little worried about it looking really bad. That didn't happen. I still think that there are moments of him being raw. I think that there are a lot of those moments. I wonder if him not necessarily knowing what to do half court defensively keeps him from seeing the court his rookie season. But offensively, is there just enough of you trying, giving 110% effort? Do you have enough athleticism, well-timed cuts close to the baseline to give an outlet to a driving LaMelo? Even work a pick and pop? Can you make enough shots? I don't think the percentage is going to be good enough from Salaun from the outside for you to truly be worried about that. Like if Salaun is working a pick and pop game, or even if he's just standing in the corner while you see penetration and then LaMelo, Brandon, whoever is doing the kick out, I think defenses and coaches are going to say, hey, just go ahead and sag off of them and let's protect the paint a little bit more. So that seems like it would be the smart thing to do if Salaun is in the game. It force him to hit some of those shots. And if he does, great. Defense is going to have to account for it. But I bet default it's going to be let him shoot and we'll see if he hurts us. If he doesn't hurt you, then it's going to be really hard to play him, especially if defensively, like it would be great if we're talking about him getting back in transition. I expect him to continue to do that. There's not going to be any laziness from him. Pick up ball, like do the fundamental stuff that you have to do when you're going with transition defense. Really, it's just about getting back and then making the decision after that. But it's the half court defensive stuff, the rotation, the communication. If that's the philosophy of a Charles Lee led team, that we're going to be much better defensively, if that's what he's setting his watch to, and they want to compete this year, I still probably lean more towards, it's going to still be at least another season before we see consistent minutes for Tidjane Salaun. But I'll tell you this, I leave Summer League happy with his performance. I'm totally comforted with, okay, that wasn't a disaster, which low bar, right? But even so, dude showed real flashes in, I see what the Hornets see in him. Totally get it. Plus, he's a good rebounder. Rebounding is going to help you see the floor and give you enough of an opportunity to do that as well, especially if this team lacks physical rebounders, right? Miles is really good at it. Miles has always been good at it. Mark Williams needs to grow in that department. Hopefully he does. But if you're really only talking about Miles, and Grant plays still low to the ground, even if he's physical, it's not like he is an amazing rebounder. In fact, he was pretty terrible at previous stops before he had his time here in Charlotte. Maybe that's the way Salaun sees the floor. Okay, there's a strength of mine that nobody else is really good at outside of what Miles can do. So let me go in there and see if I can grab some boards and give our team some second chances. Like Nick Richards is good at it, but we know he's the backup center if everything goes right. Yeah, maybe that's the pathway. But I leave comforted with the stuff that Salaun showed in just 3 games, by the way. Battling injury, the laceration to his knee, he was wearing that knee sleeve. So I guess we don't exactly know how bad it is. We couldn't tell visibly because it was blocked. But I leave comforted with what Salaun did. And I'm okay waiting a year if that's what it takes. We'll see after that. But all things good in Summer League. The vibes are great, and I absolutely love it, not only just with Salaun, but with all the other players here. Let's continue to talk about it. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast, I'm trying to figure out who is going to get this 2-way contract, and then we can start to talk a little more about what we saw, maybe rapid fire observations. That's still to come here on Locked On Hornets. Before I go into the last segment, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Let's play some audio more so from Josh Longstaff interview with us on Wes and Walker just last week, because he had some comments about Tidjane Salaun. Perhaps you missed them last week. Either way, we can just play it again. Here's assistant coach for the Charlotte Hornets in Josh Longstaff, but also the head coach out in Vegas as he discusses how excited he is about what Tidjane Salaun can do. Trying to find this audio. Actually, maybe I just won't play it if I actually don't have it, because that's what happens when your producer is gone. But he did talk about how excited he is, and really the takeaway from his comment is he's just starting to scratch the surface on everything that he can do. And I think with the fact that they were so worried about him seeing too much time, I know Doug was a little frustrated by it. Look, if you have a new training staff, if you have a rookie that you're scared to death is going to get hurt and isn't going to be able to suit up the first season, and you're able to throw him out there for 3 games and for the most part looks decent I'm cool with him only getting those 3 games if it really meant, hey, he could hurt himself even further. Now, we know that Salaun isn't going to get one of these two-way contracts. He's going to be solidly on the team. Who is going to get one of those two-way contracts? That's the question. And we already have Leaky Black taking care of one of them. So if they don't take that away, that means KJ Simpson has the other. That's the second round pick out of Colorado. So it means that we only have one more to give out. I think if you were to ask most Hornets fans that paid attention to Summer League this year, it would come down to Jake Stevens, Mo Gee, despite only playing a game in like 5 minutes. And honestly, it might just be those two with, with condolences to Xavier Simpson if he's really trying to be with this team, because he led the squad in minutes played outside of Brandon again for just the one game he played. But Xavier Simpson averaged 30.8 minutes per game, averaged 14.3 points per game. He did so on 42% shooting, but 38% from 3. So that's pretty good on 2 attempts per game. Got to the foul line a decent amount for Summer League. And we know just how important he was facilitating. 8 assists per contest for Xavier Simpson. So you might look at a stat line and think, hey, what the hell? Like, why isn't he really in consideration for the two-way? I mean, look, I guess I don't know the eligibility about Xavier Simpson because he's been in the league for a while, just making a couple of stops here and there. It's just too guard heavy. Like, this is what you brought him aboard for, is because you needed a point guard that you could trust, that was willing and going to embrace that summer league role. And then eventually you were going to have to move on because you have Nick Smith Jr., who is this combo / possibly just 2-1 type of guy. Trey Mann, Micic. I mean, right now you still technically have Reggie Jackson on the roster, even though I don't think they're going to keep him. And we know about LaMelo and even Brandon being this kind of primary ball handler, more so secondary. We just know that you're really backed up there in the backcourt. And so who are you going to bring? Who are you going to bring from Summer League? It's probably not going to be another PG, even though we all will remember Xavier Simpson's name as the guy that really organized that offense. So, big shout to him. But I think to me, it's got to be one of these big dudes. And I just like Mo Gee's makeup a little more, with also maybe more condolences to Jake Stevens. I do like some of the shooting he gave us. He didn't hit at a crazy nice mark. I mean, in Vegas, he shot 28.6% from 3. But remember, we know about the California Classic, certainly that debut. He hit a decent amount of shots. Physical enough player, like grabbed a decent amount of rebounds, 6.4 rebounds per game in Vegas. By the way, all these stats that I'm referencing, they're more so specifically for Vegas and what he accomplished and what these players accomplished there. But I think I just like the makeup of what Mo Gee can do. There's a little more athleticism. Remember, Mo shot from 3-point land as well. In fact, I think he shot 6 3-point attempts and made 2 of them, which I guess the percentage isn't amazing, but only one game, you're shooting that many. Yeah, they're ready to roll with him as a potential shooter, and just feels like he's a little more adaptable. He's a little more versatile, and Jake Stevens seems way more limited at the big man spot. So maybe he makes the Summer League roster or the G League roster, and that's how he stays with the Hornets franchise. But if I had to choose, it's a tough call, to be honest. That's a testament to how well the Hornets played in Summer League. I still have to go with Mo Gee because I really like what I saw in game 1. So that's the guy that would get the last two-way contract for me. Let us know how you feel, though, on the YouTube comment section, maybe below this video. And also you can tweet at us at Walker Mehl, at Doug Branson, LOH, and at Locked On Hornets. That'll do it. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast. And, of course, that includes YouTube. Have a great rest of your day. I'll be back with you tomorrow. I'll be talking a little more about LaMelo Ball and him being the hoop du jour after Zach Lowe talked about him so much, not only in a write-up, but on the Low Post podcast. So make sure you come back tomorrow where we'll talk a little bit more about LaMelo Ball going in to next season. Have a great rest of your day.